We're on.
We're back.
Number 56.
Woohoo!
Wow. 56.
Hello,
We haven't
Wildflowers.
killed each other yet.
No, well, we almost did with that wine last time. She was trying to kill us.
No, I wasn't trying to kill you.
Somebody was at the end.
Yeah.
Very disappointed.
Yeah, we're still talking.
I know.
We're talking more about the wine we did.
That's one of the highlights of the podcast
I
is
know.
drinking the wine. It was very disappointing.
It was very disappointing.
Well, anyway, we are back, and I'm Judy.
I'm Carol.
And I'm Peggy.
Nice to see you again. And I can't believe it's November.
I know.
Good grief.
Broke out the sweaters
I know.
because
Yes.
it's getting.
Yep.
Have any of you ladies turned on your heat yet?
Yeah.
I had to turn mine on.
Oh,
yeah.
I have a holdout. I haven't done
yeah.
it yet.
Well, I live in a studio apartment, so I have one of those, ones
okay.
up there.
Okay.
So, but I turn it off at night because then I get hot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I set it at like 68, so it's not really
Yeah.
heat.
We
Yeah.
did get a. Oh, you were all here. We got a space heater. I put it from across the street when the
that's
was throwing it away.
Judy was dumpster diving.
It's adorable. It's
We
a little
won't get into
fireplace. It's really cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing I put on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I just wanted to mention that, you the two of you have been telling me for the longest time, and even Corey, my daughter, has been telling me for the longest time, you got to read The Handmaid's Tale. And I just knew how disturbing it was, and it's certainly not because I don't like Margaret Atwood's writing, because I love her writing. So I just recently I bought a book at Tiny Raccoon Bookstore,
Okay.
a used book, and I finished Absolution, which I will be talking about. I'm doing the book. But I was like, you know what? I am going to read The Handmaid's Tale. And it's kind of silly to be doing that now, with everything going on in the world.
Very true.
And then I just started watching on Netflix last night, All the Light We Cannot See, which is the book that we also read and I just absolutely loved. But again, both are very topical
Yes.
about what's going on. And with the Speaker of the House, I know we really don't want to keep talking about Mike Johnson because it just infuriates us.
That's the best they could do.
But it's really sad when he says that he goes by the Bible to help him make these decisions. Like, are you kidding me? I am scared. I'm reading A Handmaid's Tale and you think, oh, this is just fiction.
Can't you see him as like the architect of Gilead in that
Yeah.
role?
Oh,
yeah.
definitely.
Oh,
yeah.
It's a personality like that.
Yeah, Mike Pence would be in there somewhere too.
And they had a picture of him next to his wife, and the outfit she was wearing, they put it next to the movie from The Handmaid's Tale, and it was so
Was it
similar.
similar?
It
Oh,
was a
God.
similar outfit, not the red thing, but for some reason, I guess there was
blue.
the
There's
blue,
the
the blue,
Yeah.
and there was. Why are you
Wait a
looking at me
minute.
that way?
His wife
Mike
had
Johnson.
an outfit like that?
Yeah. There was,
I didn't see. I'm going to have to look at this photograph.
Yeah, because somebody commented, and
That's one of the first things I mentioned. I said,
Yeah.
this guy, he is probably worse than.
That's the only
other
reason
one.
why he got
Yeah.
voted in as speaker, because they got the right-wing, extreme right-wing people in Congress to vote for him. That's the only reason that he got in.
And then Santos, he's still in. I mean,
No, because they need every vote.
They need
They
every
need
vote.
every vote, so they're not
But
going to expel a New
folks-
York Republican.
But that leaves District 3 without a congressman because he does nothing.
No,
Yeah.
You don't see him, you don't
nothing.
hear about him, all he's doing is defending himself. I live in District 3. He's my congressman. God help
That's
us.
what we'll have if they elect Trump, because he'll
Yep.
just spend his whole
Yep.
time in presidency defending himself
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
So, but that's apparently okay with a large lot of people in this country.
Folks, Judy talked in our last podcast about being curious, but sometimes you need to be more than curious. You need to
Investigate.
and that's part of curiosity. And don't listen to us. Just because we're saying this doesn't make it true, but it is true.
and learn more about the history. And I'm actually, the next time we talk, I'm hoping I'll be done with it in time, but it's a wonderful book I'm reading now. It's called Democracy Awakening by Heather Cox. It just came out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that came just
Yes, and it really goes. It's very present, and I'm not going to do a review yet. I still have another about 50 pages or so to go. But if you're curious at all about what's going on, and it's it's just from a fact perspective. Where we came from as a country, where we are as a country, where we can go as a country. Pick up this book. It's very good.
And you know, like libraries are challenged, bookstores are challenged. There was an article, I think it was the Times, where the little libraries, like people put it in their little...
Yeah, the little ones that you put out in your driveway.
They're tearing them down. They're tearing them down. They're knocking them down, they're tearing them down.
Because if you read, you become curious, and if you become curious, you release dopamine, and you get motivation.
And you get knowledge.
And you make change.
Exactly.
And you become powerful.
You find out the truth.
You become powerful, and then, you end up, then they'll have to make you a handmaid.
Yeah.
Or send.
I guess I'm like 70 pages in, and I did watch part of the series, but it just was so
It's very disturbing, but it is well worth watching.
It's worth your time to read.
Addicted
to read it and watch it, because the books were very good. I've read all of those books, but also the series is excellent. You really should watch it.
I get so worked up.
I know. Well, so when you get worked up when you watch the news too, and I actually pulled back a little bit because I'm tired of being angry and upset.
Yeah.
So I take it in small doses now.
I think it's just because it's like, what can we do? And election day's coming up. That's one thing we can do.
I voted early.
Oh, did you?
Okay.
Right, definitely vote. Make sure you show up and bring your kids to the voting place. Show them what it's about. I'm a big proponent of that.
I think early voting, at least in Nassau County, is through the weekends.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right.
I usually go on the day of.
Yeah. I do it early, not that it ever gets crowded, which is very disheartening to me when you go to vote and you have to wait online. I said, this is really sad.
Well, the thing
People think these local elections don't count, but for town council, yes, it does. You live in a town, there's people running it for you. So you better know who's running it, and the county legislator, they're helping to write the laws. And
when this airs, the election day will be over.
I know.
I just remembered that.
Well, anyway,
that's right.
There's plenty of elections coming up.
Said
Start investigating now.
Yeah.
But I'm still got, even though it was our last podcast, I have a bad taste in my mouth.
Let's change that right now. I'm hoping this wine it probably will be.
It's Chardonnay, so it'll be good.
Better.
I like Chardonnay.
All right, so the wine, this was my turn. I've had this for a while. It's called Life Vine Chardonnay. It's from 2021.
Ooh, that's a nice pour. Thank you.
I bought this wine. It's got a nice color. So
it does have a nice color.
I got this wine at the Stu Leonard's.
Farmingdale?
In Farmingdale. And
right next to our hairdresser.
Yes, that's actually where I got it. I think it was one of the times I was getting my hair done. And this didn't have much of a description, but the description was this lists the ingredients and serving facts on the bottle. It has hints of golden apple and honeydew melon. But why I chose this wine is because I've been seeing this all over the place, and I was very intrigued. This wine is 0 sugar. It says right on here. And I've seen a lot of wines advertised as 0 sugar. And I actually met somebody who worked for a company, it was not this one, but that was selling 0 sugar, and I was talking with her, but I didn't know this, that...
0 added sugar.
0 added sugar, right.
Do most wines add sugar?
That's what I was going to talk to you about, but what they claim, and this is just their website, was a big bonus of this is because they list the ingredients and serving facts on the wine, similar to what you would see
like nutrition facts.
Oh, that's cool.
And did you know that there are over 70 FDA approved additives that are allowed to be in wine, and there's no requirement to put that on the bottle.
Oh, okay.
So your wine could have all of these additives in there. Okay, but what I learned in doing my research about this is that essentially this is just an advertising ploy, and I fell for it. Because yeast converts sugar to alcohol.
Exactly.
So there is sugar, and dry wine has less sugar, has a very low sugar concentration after the fermentation process. But the joke's on me, most wines are dry wines, so unless, you're going to get a dessert wine like Moscato, or probably that awful one we had last time, that probably had more sugar. But when it says 0 sugar, it usually means it has less than 0.5 grams per beverage. I guess it means per serving, right?
Right.
So it is an advertising ploy. It piqued my curiosity.
Mhm.
So I learned about it.
Dopamine kicked
Yes,
in.
yes, and it led me to research actually what, instead of just saying, oh, 0 sugar, I could drink more of this. Sure, got myself educated, and I did some research on it.
Exactly.
So there we are.
So
Now you want
yours
to.
to
Cheers.
November.
November. Okay. Happy birthday, Carl. My brother's birthday is this month. And my mom's birthday was November 7th. Oh. See, now, they know I'm not a Chardonnay lover,
It's dry.
but the last couple of Chardonnays I've enjoyed.
I haven't had this before, so this is new for me. This whole brand is new. I think they have reds as well.
You're not...
You know what? It's missing something, and I don't know what
I
it
can tell
is.
she's awfully quiet.
Yeah.
And I love
A piece of
Chardonnay.
candy.
It's good. It's not. It's not that I'm not going to drink this glass of wine.
Yeah, I'm going to drink
It's
mine.
very good, and I try all different kinds of wines, and sometimes I hate them. But
I'm
I
not a
think
fan.
it's not buttery enough.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Oh, really?
And I don't like a lot of butter, but it needs a little bit of oak.
Yeah.
Is this oaked? Did you read it? I think
the
there's no oak.
description on there was very short, so I didn't have much to
Where
really
is it
offer
from?
you.
Where is it from?
Oh.
It's...
Let's see.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay. In California, Ukiah,
Oh, okay.
California.
All right. And what's the alcohol content?
The alcohol, I wrote that down. The alcohol content is 14.5%.
Wow.
Okay. Wow, that's right.
Wow.
And what would you pay for this wine?
All right.
Well, if I had tasted it first, I would probably bypass it.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I think that there's no oak at all in it.
There's no oak at all.
Yeah, so this
Yeah.
is probably like one of those steel cast wines.
Okay.
So, and it's not buttery at all.
No, there's no but. It's
Yeah.
just not my favorite.
Yeah,
it's not
no,
bad,
no.
but it's just not.
All right, well, and it's a California, so I'm going to say it's a Chardonnay from California. I'm going to say $12.99.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Would Natasha like this? She knows my
No,
daughter's taste.
Natasha would not like this. No,
Okay.
she wouldn't.
See?
No.
All right. Okay.
And Natasha likes butter and oak.
Because I probably like this more than the two of you do,
Yeah.
which I don't know
Because
why.
you don't really
I like
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay, and so does.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Right.
All right. Let me ask you this: would you say this leans closer to like a Pinot Grigio?
No, because it's more full body than Pinot
Pinot Grigio.
Grigio.
I would say more because
Yeah.
I don't like Pinot Grigio.
I don't
And
either
this
like
is-
Pinot Grigio. Pinot Grigio, first of all, is never this color.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe
And-
I just look
and
into
it's-
what
and
my
it's,
taste is.
lighter.
I can't tell you.
Yeah,
unless
I
drink
like
a
Pinot Grigio. Okay,
because-
This
All
is
right,
a
so-
medium bodied.
yes, it's
you know.
medium.
Okay. All right. So it's all right. It's from California.
14.5%, which is kind of high
Okay.
for.
I'm gonna say.
Yeah, that is a high
Yeah.
alcohol.
All right.
It is.
I'm gonna say $13.95.
Okay.
It retails for $21.99.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
What I do say, it's a smooth wine.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
smooth. I am, so I can drink it. It's,
No, it is.
but it's not my favorite.
it's not my
Chardonnay.
kind of Chardonnay.
No, it's not.
How many wildflowers? Because we usually forget
I give
to
this
do.
one
Three.
3. Yeah.
Yeah, three.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Just because I think I like it a little bit more than you do, I'll give it 3.5.
Okay.
I'll leave it
Okay.
here with you.
Okay.
You what?
I'll leave it here with you. You can have it. But it's hey, so this wasn't our wine. We have to
Yeah.
come up with a
we
really
do back-to-back podcasts.
I have one
so-
for the next podcast. It's my turn, so I have.
Okay.
I think it's a good one.
Oh, good.
We'll
She
see.
thinks. We'll see.
I thought
Well,
this
we'll
would be
see.
a
I've
good one.
never
I was
had it
actually
before.
saving this
Okay.
one because I thought this would be
Yeah.
really, really
Right,
good.
If I tell you that I try all different Chardonnays because I can't be drinking all the same kind all the
Yes.
time. And there's two that I
'Cause you know why?
particularly like
She's
that are
curious.
reasonable.
You're curious, that's why.
And one of them I like the name. It's called Low Fog.
Oh.
Oh, I feel like I've heard that. I feel
Yeah.
like Natasha might have.
It's a very nice Chardonnay, and it's
Mm.
maybe $12, maybe
So now-
$11.
So we have to remember that if she brings
Yeah.
it, we'll have to remember the price.
Yeah, and the other one is called Undivided, and that's also
I've
a
had
very
that.
nice one. That's a
I've had
nice.
Undivided. So.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
Wow. That's
So-
very
All right, so I'll drink this
No.
one.
yeah, it's
good.
drinkable. So, It isn't. It
No,
isn't
I
a
love-
horrible
I
Chardonnay.
love that one.
It's not my style of Chardonnay.
Yes.
Right,
No,
right.
it's not horrible. It's not the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I need lip balm. I'll be right back.
You know, this
Makeup.
is wow. Wow.
All right. So.
All right. Well, we're taking a little break. She's.
Well, we can talk about the book. You can start the book.
I can start. Well, should I start the book?
Yes.
Start the book.
Our viewers are
Is that
waiting.
Oh, okay.
book
All right.
anyway.
Well, this just came out. On here it says it's going to come out in November, but it came out officially October 31st on Halloween. It's Absolution by Alice McDermott.
Oh, she's good.
Love Alice McDermott, and I just looked forward to reading it every night. I was like getting, eager to get back to it.
I love
And
when that happens.
It's one of those books that I would imagine would be described from an agent to an editor when they're trying to get it published. Oh, it's a quiet little novel. Because it's not really plot driven, it's just character driven. And I don't need my glasses. So it's actually kind of rare to find a book where women are the main characters when it comes to literature in the Vietnam War.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and
Wow.
these are the women are in here. And I wrote down notes because I don't like to flounder as I'm trying to explain.
I
so-
know. I should start doing that because I flounder a lot.
But I know you're actually.
Oh, really? I always
good.
feel like
No, you did very
not
good.
being.
That's how I
yeah.
feel, but I don't feel like you come across that way at all. So anyway, Trisha is the protagonist, and it's in Saigon in 1963. She's a shy wife, and she's expected to be her husband's helpmeet, and that's a phrase, helpmeet. I laughed when I read that phrase because I was so young when I got married, but when my then to be married husband and I went to see the priest, he said to us, "Why do you want to get married?" And we said, "Well, because we love each other." And he goes, "Well, I think you two stink." And he said that literally, "I think you two stink." And he said to me, "You are to be his helpmeet."
Oh dear God.
I'm not kidding you.
Why'd you get married in the 50s?
I wasn't even born yet, but I got
What did
married.
you say?
Rob and I both got it. We both kind of like, yeah, whatever. And he didn't say helpmate, he said helpmeet. So this is something that was back in the day.
He
so
said help me.
Is that
Meat.
like where you're expected
Meat?
to be
I
like
mean,
the buffer, like you make the meals for the person,
Yeah,
the business.
I
He
do.
does the business and you entertain the
Yeah, it's like
wives
being,
and-
I mean,
it's like being, your little house, your
It's
little
being,
housewife.
it's being like
Yes,
the mom.
housewife.
It's like being
Yeah.
the mommy
Yeah.
for your grown man.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
that's a good way
Yeah.
to put it. So yeah, that brought me back to that time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know when I got married way too young, but whatever. So her husband is an attorney, but he's working in Saigon for the Navy intelligence. So the author weaves in details from actual events that is so interesting. So it's when Pope John the 13th, no, 10.
The 23rd.
10, 20, 23rd.
They're Roman numerals.
23rd died in Rome. I know, but and it was the self-immolation of the Buddhist monk.
Okay.
If you remember that, in
Yeah.
front of the Cambodian embassy, and then JFK was the president. And Trisha can relate to Jacqueline Kennedy since Jacqueline has a lot of miscarriages, and it breaks Trisha's heart because she has a number of miscarriages, and so she meets another American woman there. I was very early on and at a garden party, and the woman's name is Charlene. And Charlene is certainly not the kind of woman that's a helpmeet. She's her husband is working in Saigon, and she's the opposite of Trisha. So she kind of takes Trisha under her wings, but she's somewhat of a bully. Like Trisha's not strong enough person to
You probably
disagree.
has to be a bully
Right.
to not be
Yeah.
a helpmeet in that
Well,
in that day and age.
But
She didn't have to be a bully to another woman.
Right, to
She
another
could have
woman.
been like a
Right,
mentor.
right,
and,
right,
you know,
absolutely, yeah.
she's confident, but she's a bully, and so her and Trisha's always bent to Charlene's will while never wanting to be disobedient to her husband. So here she is, like she reminds me of. I don't want to say what she reminds me of, but anyway.
You could
so-
relate.
Yeah, for somebody that I know very well.
I think I know.
Yeah, you probably do. So most of the book is Trisha at 70 years old now, writing to Charlene's daughter. about that.
Charlene's the bully.
Yeah, Charlene's a bully, but now she's writing because she met Charlene when her daughter when she was like 6 years old.
Okay.
So now many years later, it's weird how their paths crossed again, and so when she's sharing this information,
That's an interesting concept. Yeah.
it was so interesting how she wrote it.
Yeah.
And I found that so fascinating because she's revealing so much, and yet she's just sharing the story. Rainey is the name of the daughter, which I found was an interesting name. Sure.
I like that name. That's a nice name.
So, and Rainey is such a young, obedient child. You can tell that she doesn't want to go against her mother, Charlene, because Charlene's very controlling. So when Rainey replied to Trisha's letter, one thing she says certainly provides a great description of Charlene. She says, I imagine we both felt unseen in my mother's churning wake. I mean, can you, that's so written so beautifully.
Yeah.
And another quote from the book is, poetry is in the world well before the poet finds it.
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely. True.
Don't you just love that?
Absolutely.
So children were a married woman's golden handcuffs. Think about that. Isn't that interesting? Right, what's the face for?
I don't know, that's a horrible way of referring to your children, like they are anchoring you down, but it was at that time.
I thought
It
right
was.
when you said
Because
yeah.
because women couldn't be outside the
Anything
home.
more.
There was no daycare facilities, or
Right,
you know, like
right.
you are home taking care of your children and,
And
being a helpmate to your husband.
And I
Yeah.
thought of the movie The Help and the book The Help during
Yeah.
that, and
Mhm.
how many of those women were so
Oh
happy
my
to parade
God.
their children around, but they didn't
They
want
couldn't-
mothers, and
no.
they weren't capable of being
Right,
mothers,
right.
and
Yep.
just
They depended on everybody else to take care of their
but those
children.
were their golden little house.
That's
right.
My baby
Yeah,
out
and in
public
this book, Charlene
Yeah.
had a nanny. She had a maid to take care of her child, whatever. She did a lot of good, and she roped it, and Trisha got involved too. But Trisha's husband rarely included her in any serious decision making. So it was basically like, oh, we're doing this.
And this takes place in the 60s,
In the 60s,
right?
yeah. And so this is a paragraph I actually wrote out because it was later, a little bit later in the book. She goes, I have to laugh when I think about it now. How much easier life must have been for certain government agencies. How much easier for secrecy to be maintained. In those days before men felt any obligation to share their lives with the women they loved.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow. That just like, I had to read that a couple of times because some people want to turn it back to that time.
I was just thinking, I said,
Yeah.
we're heading back
Mhm.
there.
Yep, we absolutely
We are
are.
heading back that way.
And I know I've said this to you, but reading this book makes me want to be a better writer. When I read
You've
a book
said that about her before.
when
yeah.
when there's books that are just crappy, I'm just like, oh, I just get disgusted.
Yeah.
But this one, like, she's the kind of writer who doesn't dumb it down. She doesn't feel a need to explain, you know, and I love
pretty
that.
cover, too.
So I highly recommend it. It just came out, and I give it 5 Wildflowers.
Wow, that's
5
a
out of 5.
You know what? It sounds like a
Absolutely.
book I would really enjoy reading as well.
Yeah,
And
well,
why do
you're
you
welcome to
think the
take it.
title is Absolution?
Yes.
Who's being absolved?
I think because of the letters that she's, I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to give.
okay.
I don't want to give anything away.
That
but
sounds like a,
um,
I could see it as you're talking like a movie. And I know I always say
Yeah.
that, but when you have a novel that is so good, you can visualize something as
Yeah.
a movie, then you know it's a worthy.
Yeah.
well, it's available
Now,
for any of you to
Charlotte was,
Charlene.
Charlene is dead when
Oh, don't say it. No, I don't think she is.
when they're exchanging the letters.
I can't.
Oh,
reveal
okay. It just
anything.
seemed that's the impression I got.
Don't give that part away.
Well, I don't know. I
Wow.
didn't read the book.
I know. I don't want to.
wanna-
In my mind, I've already figured it out.
I gave her
It just
But I
seems
tell
that
you,
way.
Don't tell me. 'cause
You know,
I'm not telling-
otherwise, why would she be corresponding with
Okay.
the daughter?
Well,
There's
there is
lots of reasons. Yeah. I've already invented 3 in my head.
Well, I wrote the ends of the book. I know what happens.
I like this. I like
Alice
this.
McDermott.
Yeah.
Love your writing. Absolution.
Yeah. Awesome.
I have only read 2 of her books. It was Charming Billy and
Uh-huh.
At Wakes and Weddings. So I'm gonna pick up some more, and I'll definitely
Yeah.
get around to that. Right now, I'm reading another children's book.
Oh, are you?
I love that you do that.
Oh my God,
I saw the
love
one that
it.
you reviewed last time. It was featured at Barnes and Noble.
Oh, the Wild Robot.
It was right there.
That's
on
where I
end
bought
cap.
it. Was buy one get one 50% off. So I bought that, and I bought the Pony. A Pony, it's called,
Oh.
and that's by the author of Wonder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's so good. I'm reading it now, and I'm.
I like
loving
that.
it.
I like that you put that part that in here because we have our
Yeah.
viewers who
Absolutely.
have kids and
Sure.
are looking for good books too.
Yeah.
No, and you're inspiring me to maybe want to do that as well.
Well, I don't want to take the wind out of your sails.
No. I love children's books.
I know.
Anyway. I
We've
do.
been
Good
for
ones.
inside for you guys to know. We've been encouraging Peggy for years to write
I
her
know.
own young adult novel.
Please, we're
No,
not.
not young
even gonna
adults.
go
I'm
there.
more a picture book person.
Yeah. And she'll say to me,
I've got a good idea. Carol, you got to write it.
I
I'm
think
like,
you have
can
young
write it.
adults as well.
Yeah.
You do. You have such a good
Don't.
handle on
No.
it.
I'm not disciplined enough to be a writer. I'm.
She can put my
I could
ninja.
barely
She
do-
can put my ninja together for me because
That's
I have
right.
no curiosity
She
to
did.
do it. But I'll write, and she puts things together.
But that was a great review. I love
It was very good.
Well,
It sounds like a
that's-
fascinating
I've got it. Yeah, I was like, Carol, you're gonna forget because as I'm reading, I'm like, oh, I want to share this part with the boy because I feel like I flounder when I'm sharing.
No,
it.
yeah,
very
well, that
good.
was a very good review.
Well,
And the holidays are coming up.
Mhm.
Don't forget that people do like books, and maybe
Oh.
you have somebody who would, even if they're not a voracious reader, they would probably love. Pick up a book
that you
over
know
the
is gonna be
holidays.
good.
It's highly recommended.
Yeah.
You know what I've also too learned too is speaking with a lot of people. Some people say, "Oh, I used to read," and then the kids came.
Oh,
and
right, yeah.
But now they're getting older. I really got to get back.
Back to
This
Yeah.
one seems
You
like
know
a
what?
really
And,
good one to
and I'm a
start.
reader, and we all are.
Yeah.
And we're all former booksellers.
Yes.
So sometimes that happens to me too.
Yes.
Like I go for weeks and I haven't
You haven't
picked up
picked
a
up.
book,
I
and
doubt
then I
that.
said, well, it doesn't
happens.
happen often, but
Yeah.
it has happened. And then all of a sudden I said, all right, I have to pick up a book. Let me go to the bookstore. So when you're doing your holiday shopping, you probably have a bookstore in your neighborhood. Go to the bookstore. Not only do they have great staff there who can
Yes.
recommend
Yeah.
books to you, but you do your browsing and they have sidelines,
Oh, and
they
they
have
have
tote bags,
and have good prices
Starbucks
on books. too.
cafes.
Mhm, exactly.
I find that the customer service is still alive and kicking in a
In-
bookstore
Because
environment.
they
Uh-huh.
care.
But if you go to any other place, really, I mean,
Uh-huh.
although Stu Leonard's has good customer service, I'm
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
impressed with them. But it's like dead everywhere else.
Right,
It's like
yeah.
I'm thanking them, and I'm like, why am I thanking you? You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But bookstores usually have very good customer service.
Yeah,
most
they do.
bookstores, they have people that care about books,
Yes.
that care about what's out. They have
That's
somebody
right.
on staff that does a book club.
And
Yeah.
I suggest for Christmas you get a book and a bottle of wine for somebody.
Oh,
It's
yes.
the perfect gift. You
And-
can buy it for me.
And tell them to watch the Wildflowers podcast because they'll learn about
And
books
if they
and
don't
wine.
drink wine, a bag of coffee.
That's right.
Oh yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
exactly.
Or tea,
Or
whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that would be like a dream gift for me. I'm like, oh,
I really regret when we were in London. Remember, I was going to buy tea. I told
Oh,
you.
yes, yes.
I asked Samantha if she would like it. She's
Yeah.
an avid tea drinker, and
Right.
so is Aaron. But they have so much tea, and they only
Yes.
do
The
loose
loose
tea.
tea.
And then I said I should have bought some for me because when I
Oh.
got home, I was reading about one of the places that we almost went to. I forgot the name of the tea store. It started with an F. It's F falls in somebody, and it's like one of the best black teas in the world. And I said, why didn't I buy it?
We have to go back. So
Okay.
let's do
All
it.
right, next weekend.
All right.
We'll
there
go to
we
London.
Sorry guys, we gotta do a podcast.
we'll take the jet.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No,
now we have a subject, right?
I think
I
we
don't
do.
even know what the topic is.
Well, that's because I changed it. Because initially I was going to. I get this newsletter from history.com, and I was, I
love
opened it up, and it was about Al Capone, and I said, oh, Americans are very familiar with who Al Capone is because
Well,
we really
just
love our bad guys.
Older
Yes,
Americans. I don't know if
Right.
the non-Americans are.
I don't know. He's kind of like we love our bad guys.
Why?
Like we love Jesse James.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we all know Jesse James. And the Godfather movies. We all know that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I grew up in that era where there were all these westerns on TV and western movies.
Yeah.
So they were all like your heroes, even though they were horrible people. And the
Yes.
gangster movies with Elliot Ness and Al Capone.
Yeah.
And as I was reading about Al Capone, it had very much to do with Alcatraz. And I said, Alcatraz is fascinating to me. It has such a history,
Yes, it
even
does.
into the late 60s, early 70s. And Al Capone was one of the people imprisoned there. So I said, oh, maybe I'll talk more about Alcatraz than Al Capone.
I love that.
So
Yeah.
Al Capone actually was one of the first people to be imprisoned there.
Oh,
And
really?
they didn't put like the worst people in Alcatraz. That wasn't what it was about.
I always felt that was, but
They
it was
didn't. They put the
interesting.
incorrigible people there, the people who would not follow the rules.
Okay.
Now, Al Capone was imprisoned in an Atlanta prison. And when he was there, he was bribing the guards. He had a suite. He had private meals. He had visitations from Lucky Luciano and all the
Oh
other
my
gangsters. And so he had it made there.
Right.
And like he wouldn't follow the rules. So that's why they picked him. They said, okay, we're sending him to Alcatraz. Because in Alcatraz, you had 4 rights. You had the right to food, to clothing, to, oh, I wrote it down now, I
Water?
can't remember it. No, food, clothing, shelter, and medical care.
Oh, okay.
Anything else that you got there was a privilege and you had to earn it. And you earned it by following the rules, with your behavior.
What about the bathroom? What
Well,
do
of
you
course, there's a toilet in every cell.
think? Okay.
Now, many criminals wanted to go to Alcatraz
What?
because you had a private cell. You didn't have to share a cell with anybody, so you didn't have to worry about somebody cutting
Killing
your
you.
throat.
Yeah.
Making you
exactly.
their girlfriend. or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
And if you were on your best behavior, you know, like you could work, they would give you a job where you could work. You could go to the library. You could learn about music and play a musical instrument.
Oh.
You had a water view.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if you're gonna
Yeah,
mention
they didn't
this.
really have
Not
windows,
Not
but
to get ahead, I'm just curious to know, were there any women at Alcatraz?
no, there were only men
Only
in
men,
Alcatraz.
okay.
Yeah, it wasn't. They used to have separate, and I believe that they still do have separate women prisons.
Right,
So,
so-
in our prison system, they're not co-op, you know, they're not
Not co-ed.
co-op, no, co-ed, right,
Yeah.
that's what I meant to say.
I know you did.
So, so they liked it also because the warden in Alcatraz believed that good food was a key to keeping the prisoners from rioting.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
they had their own room. It was small, but
Yeah.
they had their toilet and their cot and I think a very small table. And the food was good in Alcatraz. So a lot of prisoners would request to go there,
Wow,
but they only sent the people who weren't cooperating. So Alcatraz originally, it's an island,
Yes,
right?
I've been there.
And in San Francisco Bay,
I'm sorry.
there's,
I
I know,
I'm-
she's
I'm
older than
released
you
now.
think.
I'm released.
Yeah. There are 3 islands in the San Francisco Bay, and initially it belonged to this explorer, a Mexican explorer, and the United States government bought it from him. And the name is derived from the Spanish word Alcatrazes, and it means pelican, or one place said pelican, another place said gannet, which is also a
Is it like a type
seabird.
of a bird?
Yeah, like a booby. And
Like a what?
a booby is it's a
Wait,
seabird.
what was
Oh,
it?
Booby.
I just wanted to hear
Yeah.
you say that.
So initially, then the United States, they decided to make it a citadel. So they built this fort there.
Okay.
And they put 100 cannons around it to protect the San Francisco Bay.
Right. Okay.
None of those cannons were ever fired because it was never necessary to protect San Francisco Bay.
Okay.
If nobody ever tried to attack it.
Okay.
So then in the 1850s, they said, okay, let's make it a prison. They made it a military prison. So like during the Civil War, you know, any deserters or any other military people who broke the law, they imprisoned there. And then after that, they built a lighthouse on it too in the 1850s, and it was the first operational lighthouse on the Pacific coast. That one became obsolete because a few years later they built a cell block in front of it, so nobody could see it. So they had to build another one there. So
For planning.
A lot of wasted money.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So then in 1909, the Army tore down the citadel, and they left the basement level there as a foundation for a new military prison. So from 1909 to 1911, prisoners built the new prison. This building later became the Rock, and that's what they call Alcatraz,
I remember
the Rock. The Army used it until 1933. It was transferred to the Justice Department for use as a maximum security prison. Penitentiary for the most incorrigible inmates in federal prisons, and to show that the feds were serious about stopping crime in the 1920s and 30s when there was so much crime during Prohibition.
Right.
So the feds did that. All right, we're going to build this inescapable place called the Rock, you know, Alcatraz, and nobody could escape from it. So they used to say the myth was that there was sharks, man-eating sharks in San Francisco Bay, but there weren't. There were only bottom feeder sharks in San Francisco Bay. The reason why a lot of people didn't try to escape and swim the 1.5 miles to San Francisco was because of the currents, and the water was very cold. And most of the prisoners, there were no gyms in prisons then, like they did sit-ups and push-ups. So they really weren't conditioned to make a 1.5 mile swim like that in ice cold water with
And you might answer this later, but the movie Escape from Alcatraz, is that?
Yeah, Escape from Alcatraz. I'm gonna tell you how many people did it.
But was that based on a true story, the movie?
There were people, yes.
Okay.
There were
very big sea lions there.
Oh, really?
Didn't you see them, Peggy, when you were there? They're huge
I don't remember.
sea lions there.
I don't remember seeing them.
So when were you in Alcatraz? Not in Alcatraz, visiting.
I went there, my sister Maureen and I went to San Francisco to visit my niece Erin, and while she was working, like we were traveling around, touring around, and we went, I said, oh, let's go to Alcatraz, and you have to take the boat there.
Right.
So we went to the place where you buy the tickets on the dock, and they said, I'm sorry, you really have to buy these tickets well ahead of time because there's no more tickets available. This is the last boat leaving.
Yeah.
So we said, oh, shit. So then we were just in the waiting room. We were trying to figure out what we're going to do. And then they made an announcement that they had some cancellations. And if anybody's waiting for a ticket to Alcatraz.
Wow.
So we ran up. We got the tickets. We got on the boat right before it left.
Wow.
And
That's
then we
lucky.
went to visit Alcatraz. And there weren't a lot of people there. It was
Right.
like the boat, I don't know where all the people were. Because when we got there. When we got to Alcatraz,
When you say people, like incarcerated or
no,
just
nobody was incarcerated.
Yeah.
By then it closed.
Okay.
You know,
yeah,
many
right.
years before that it closed.
Right. Okay.
But you know, we got these last tickets.
That's
but
very lucky.
where we
Yeah.
were walking around, we were always by ourselves,
Oh, that's
and we were
creepy.
like, oh my God, why don't we get? Because
Why?
we started saying, why don't we get locked in here and the boat leaves and we're stuck on the island
Oh, my
overnight? We were like
God.
so paranoid about it.
That's a short
But it was
story.
a really, really creepy place to be.
And you were there
So-
when?
Well, let me be the camera. I wasn't there because we did like what you did. We restored the
okay.
moment and we're like, oh, let's go take a tour back.
Yeah,
But we
uh-huh.
had to buy the tickets in advance. So what we did do was take the boat ride, which you could take a tour around, and then you get like a tour that tells you about
okay.
the history.
Yeah.
And the girls they were about 7, I think, when we
Mhm.
went. My brother lived in San Francisco, Monterey at the time, so we were there with him and his wife, and so we got a history tour.
Yeah,
on it. So
yeah.
I got to see it. That's where I saw those sea lions. I'm like, oh, look
Yeah.
at those sea lions.
I don't remember seeing sea lions. Maybe I did. I mean, it was in, I guess it was in the 90s that I went. So you
Have
know,
any of you been inside of a prison?
only Alcatraz, and
No, like a current prison.
no.
You have?
Yes, I got locked in during a riot. So that's what I'm saying. Just as like
Where? Rikers Island?
No,
Is
it
that-
was in Massachusetts.
Oh.
Oh, was
Yeah.
this when you were
When I was
as a
working
lawyer?
as a lawyer, yes.
Oh.
And so
Were
when you
you-
said it was scary, I was like, yeah, I know
Well,
that.
with Alcatraz, like you go and you
Wow.
see the cells, like where Al Capone was and stuff, and it seems haunted to me. You know, it
I
was
can
like
see that. Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very creepy, and everything's old and kind of run
Right.
down
Yes.
now, and like knowing the history of it, you know, it was kind of creepy. It was only open for 29 years.
Is that all really?
Yep, it was from 1934 to 1963.
And you're probably going to get to it, but why did they close it?
They closed it because it was
Excuse
very expensive to operate.
Okay.
Because
okay.
they had 1.3 guards to every prisoner.
Wow.
Every prisoner had their own cell.
1.3. Wait.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a mathematical equation.
Yeah.
Now you made me lose my train of thought.
1.3 guards to every cell.
To every cell, and the food was good. They ate good food.
So that was
And
expensive.
since there was no running water,
Oh.
and there was everything had to be shipped in.
Okay.
So they would ship in tankers with fresh water,
Okay.
and they had to ship every supply
Out.
had to be shipped in, and
Okay.
it just became too expensive to run.
Right, because then they think about it too. The guards, if they have that many guards, they all have to go in by boat as well.
Uh-huh,
So now
yeah.
you gotta bring
Yeah.
them all in and bring them home.
Exactly.
How long
Yeah.
of a boat ride was it for you?
Oh, it's not long. It's
No, it's
right
not
off,
long,
maybe
but-
like 20 minutes
But
or
still,
something.
that's a boat.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
it's got
no,
to
I'm
be
just
taxpayer
curious.
funded
And,
and the gas. and,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Yeah, so that's why they closed it down. It was just too expensive to run. So then it was empty for 63 to 6. It was, and in 63 they closed it. In 1969, if you weren't born yet, I know that, but Carol and I were. And if you remember, the Native Americans
Yes.
took over Alcatraz.
Oh yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
my
yes,
God.
yes.
Wow.
They went there because their
That's-
cultural center in San Francisco had burned down. So a group of them went to
forgot
Alcatraz
about that.
and they occupied it.
Yeah.
And they would not leave. And they
So they
made
weren't
it their homes. They
prisoners.
occupied, they occupied the buildings.
And it was closed already.
Yes, it was
Okay.
closed. There were no prisoners there. And the government tried to get them out, but Nixon was president and he didn't want to make a big stink about it. So they kind of like backed away from it. And they were there for 19 months.
Oh.
And then towards the end of it, the people who were legitimate, like they were really trying to bring attention to rights to Native Americans, and you know, they wanted to make it a cultural center, the whole island. And but a lot of those people had left already. And what you had was, towards the end, you had all like the rubble coming in, the hippies were coming in. It was free rent, let's live here, peace and love, let's get high.
Yeah.
And when the government finally went to get everybody out of there, there was like 20 people still there.
Oh, okay.
So it didn't work out so well for the Native Americans, except that it did bring attention to their plight and, you know, what happened to them in our history, which was totally horrendous. So. The average population in Alcatraz, while it was a prison, was 260 to 275.
Okay.
I think the maximum that could be there was like 350 people. So it wasn't like this big, you know, overcrowded. They had less than 1% of the full prison population in the United States.
So that is a big expensive to
Yeah.
do.
Oh, yeah.
Taking it for less than 1%.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So there were a lot of famous people there. I mean, you're so young, you probably don't know, but have you heard the Machine Gun Kelly?
Machine Gun Kelly,
And
yes.
and you know, Al Capone and Lucky Luciano.
Those are what
So-
our movies are. That's
Exactly.
what everybody
They're
has
our
heard.
icons.
That's
These
where
bad
we know
guys.
this, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and closed in 1963. And this, I think I got it. Oh, and then they made it after that in the 70s. Then they took it and they made it a part of Golden Gate National Recreation Area, and that's why now it's a tourist.
So how many people escaped? I'm sorry.
Oh, you know what? Let me do that. So yeah.
Well, just real question. Yeah. Was there ever a flood there? Because you're right.
No,
Oh,
not
that's a
that
great
was
question,
ever
actually,
reported.
yeah.
I
But
just in my head.
It was supposed to be unescapable, but
Right.
36, the total of 36
That's a lot.
inmates put supposedly escape-proof Alcatraz to the test. Of those convicts, 23 were captured,
Okay.
6 were shot to death, and 2 drowned. The other 5 went missing and were presumed drowned, including Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin, whose 1962 attempted breakout inspired the 1979 film Escape from Alcatraz.
Now you remember who was the actor in that?
No.
Clint Eastwood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know I saw it,
I
yeah.
was rooting for
Yeah.
him. I was rooting for him to
The
escape.
crafty trio chipped away at the rotting concrete cell walls with sharpened spoons and fashioned decoy heads complete with used locks from the barbershop.
Like Shawshank Redemption.
And
almost.
Yeah, I have to
Yep.
watch that.
And
Yeah.
they're placed in
Oh,
their
wow.
beds
Yes.
to fool the gods.
Wow.
Their possessions were found floating in San Francisco Bay, but no bodies were ever recovered, leading some to speculate that they may have engineered a successful escape.
You gotta watch that.
Or
movie.
the sea
I'm
lions.
sure
Yeah.
TCM probably
sea
airs
lions
it every
are
once in a while.
Yeah, I guess so. I've never seen it on TCM, but I
Yeah,
can
no,
look
I
for it on
don't think
Hulu or something.
That's true.
Then, did you ever see the movie The Birdman of Alcatraz?
No.
You should watch that movie. Burt Lancaster was in it. It was so good. But it was a bunch of bullshit.
Oh, really?
Yes, The Birdman of Alcatraz. His name was Robert Stroud, and he was in Leavenworth prison. And he was serving a manslaughter sentence for killing a bartender in a brawl. He fatally stabbed a guard at Leavenworth prison in 1916. So he was supposed to be executed, but President Woodrow Wilson commuted his death sentence to a life of permanent solitary confinement.
Ooh.
He began to study ornithological
Oh.
diseases, write and illustrated 2 books, and raised canaries and other birds in his Leavenworth cell. He was ordered to give up his birds in 1931, and he was banned from having an avian cellmates during his 17 years inside Alcatraz. He was a freaking murderer,
I know.
which began in 1942. The 1962 movie Birdman of Alcatraz, for which Burt Lancaster received an Academy Award nomination just weeks before The Rock closed, was largely fictitious.
So funny.
So in Alcatraz, he did not have any birds, only in Leavenworth, and that's in Kansas. So.
Oh, he was
Okay.
being nice to the birds. It was good.
Yeah, I know, but
Well,
he
they
murdered
do
a guard.
But they do, like, there's a lot of prisons, there's some programs where they train,
Right.
puppies to be used for service dogs.
Yeah,
right,
And I think that's a great.
I think most of
program.
them, they're people who are being rehabilitated to go outside. This guy was never getting out of prison. I mean, he was in prison, manslaughter, it was a brawl, the guy, maybe it was accidental, but then when he was in prison, then he killed a prison guard
But
in cold
That,
blood.
and if
you
you're
know.
going to be effective in punishment, that would be the punishment for me. Tell me
Yeah.
I can't have any access to an
Yeah,
animal.
an
I'd be
animal,
like,
yeah, yeah.
you might as well kill me now.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I think I covered it all.
Good.
That was a great
And-
job. Thank you, Peggy.
You know what? That was
Interesting, right?
Yeah. I'm
Once
glad you
again,
did it on
a
Alcatraz.
A little bit of our history.
Yeah, once again, when we started this podcast, what are we going to talk about?
I know, we thought that we were going to run out of
And I
ideas.
already thought of my next topic based on what you were saying.
Oh,
Wow.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sea lions.
Something piqued my curiosity, and I said,
Oh, I
I'm going
love
to do
it.
that for the
I
next
love
time.
it.
I
Okay.
have to do some.
Very
yeah,
good.
This
research.
excites me.
Yay.
You know what? I'm still excited about our podcast. Remember,
Yay,
we're like,
we are
oh,
too.
we want to keep it going. Well, we keep it going. You know.
You're not the only one because we reached a milestone on our viewership too.
Yeah.
We way over, and I mean by way, I mean we're like over 100 subscribers.
Oh,
Wow.
thank you guys.
Yeah, so
That's
thank you
so
very much.
awesome. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, this was lovely. This
It
was
was.
very nice. And
Yes,
the wine
it was.
was, I
Yeah,
finished.
the
was-
wine.
I actually
it went to my head a little.
I poured
so.
a second because I like it a little better.
Yeah.
do.
Well, as time goes on,
Did
that
we
happens
say,
with
did we
wine.
say the alcohol content?
Yes, it was.
It was
14 and a half.
Yeah,
That
I know. That's
explains
why it
that.
went right
Yeah,
to my
that
head.
explains why.
I know. I have to eat some of that PF Chang's that we bought.
Yes, that you bought. Yes,
Bye,
I do.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Peggy.
you. See you next
Yes,
time.
yes, absolutely.
Bye.